So, this time we're going to talk about Stoicism once again. It is just amazing to talk about Stoicism, and I might also be doing something completely different, something that I've not been doing up to this point, which is designing something. So, basically some sort of a design tutorial, I would say. It's like actually a good thing in two ways, but I'm going to talk about it after the intro. As always, because it is amazing. And I do, by the way, hope that everything is going to work as I want it to work, because I kind of have a funny feeling that it won't work as I want it to work, since it is actually pretty demanding if I'm using Photoshop to design something, and then I'm also just at the exact same time recording it. Like, it's just something that's really going to take a lot of my CPU, and I hope it's not going to break the whole fucking recording. Might be something to look out for, I might also not gonna be able to work with pictures then, just because it is also something that's not that nice for Photoshop, because it's also like, again, more demanding and all those things. Like, it is strange. And as you can see, I'm having again a sock over my phone, but I kind of feel like, or I'm having a funny feeling that it actually does pretty great, I think it is actually a pretty good thing to have a fucking sock in front of my microphone. I kind of feel like it is just not hurting the quality, and I also do not just have to pollute the world with all the other stuff that I had on my microphone, so that it's gonna not pop that much. But yeah, I'm probably gonna do it in such a way that I'm gonna design something, and while I'm designing something, I'm totally also gonna talk about Stoicism, but afterwards we're gonna go through the summary and we're gonna go through that. So for all the people that are only interested in the design, it's probably gonna be just from now to just the 10-minute mark or something like that. It totally comes up to how long I'm gonna take it, or just how long I'm gonna give myself the time, actually, because I can be pretty fast, but I also can be just pretty slow. It really heavily depends. But yeah, let's actually see. Let's actually see if we are able to do so. If we are able, and as you can actually see, we are already in the summary, but here we have Photoshop. It is a tiny bit fucked. Let's do it in such a way. Let's do it in this way, so that we're having more space to work with, and so that you're also able to just see the whole frame. It's a little bit narrow, I'm sorry for that, actually. Well, this doesn't make anything better. But I can do it like this. I could be doing it like this, so I hope it is not too laggy. I think is a just way to just not let it be so just demanding in terms of the PC and whatnot, but it's gonna be a little bit laggy. I'm sorry about that. So I think the word that we're going to use is Stoicism. So let's actually make that bigger, a tiny bit bigger. I'm actually having a size of 1080 by 1080 pixels, because it is what I'm usually using for Instagram, and this is going to be for Instagram and also for Facebook, and so that I'm actually having two good things. Like, I'm having an episode in terms of the podcast that I'm recording right now, and I'm also having a post for later on, which enables me to not just have to do so much design work, I guess, even though it's something that I deeply love. And then the kerning the tracking is going to be 0, and it is totally spelled incorrectly. By the way, my spelling is so awful. And that's it. Stoicism. We're probably going to use just something like black. And today, I'm actually not going to use some sort of a grid. I am sometimes using a grid, but I'm not really the best at working with grids, I would say. I'm just more or less just doing things like I think they're cool, and sometimes they are then going to be cool, and sometimes they are not going to be cool. We're going to use repetition, repeating something, as it is actually like in real life as well. If you're repeating a lot of things, then you're totally going to be better. It is also one of the reasons why I like to do the design work, and I also want to do the design work every single day, because I know that I'm going to be better. So now, we're having 3 times Stoicism, and I basically, or by the way, I actually used the font Jill Sans, or actually Gil Sans, since it's been a German designer, if I remember it correctly, Gil Sans Nova, and I think it is actually a pretty cool one. Compared to the Gil Sans, the normal one, it's actually having more different sizes, more different weights, which is actually something that's pretty cool to work with. The more kind of ways, or the more weights you're having to work with, or that you're able to work with, the better. Somehow, at least at my point of view, because you're having way more options, which could also just be as it is just in life as well. Again, if you're having such a lot of options, it can be really difficult to choose one, And if you're having like 3 options, like regular, italic, and bold, then it is fairly simple, what you're going to use, or what combination you're gonna use as well. So yeah, and because when I'm having something big and I want it to have even bigger, or I want it to be even bigger, then I'm gonna just add something that's really small. Because, okay, it is big, the font that I've been using there is quite big, but compared to the rest, it's like big, but compared to something really smaller, it's gonna be way bigger. Like contrast, we need contrast also in life. And I'm normally using my last name because I don't actually know what I should be using instead. And I'm normally also gonna just divide it by 4, and then I'm gonna take this. It's actually pretty big, and I'm gonna place it somewhere. It's normally gonna be on the bottom, because I have a funny feeling that on the bottom it's pretty great. On the bottom it's working quite fine. And I'm normally also adding something like a date, 2019, and then let's do this one to, oh, I see. I shouldn't be using this one. It's, by the way, the first time that I'm doing this. I haven't been doing this before, but it's great. I kind of feel like that I should be doing it, because it is something new, it is something amazing. And I'm actually a little bit sorry for all the podcast listeners. It might be also pretty interesting, for all the designers there. I at least hope that it's not going to be something that's too boring, I would say, or too just different, maybe. But yeah, doing something that everyone is doing is probably not going to work anyways. It's probably not also going to be a pretty good idea, because it is something that everyone is doing. And if it is something that everyone is doing, then there's going to be just a few people, like 10 people, that are doing that in a really great fashion, which might be like, okay, let's talk about YouTube like we're having. I wouldn't actually say that PewDiePie is always doing the exact same thing. He's actually experimenting quite a lot of times. But let's talk about pranks, There's a lot of guys that do pranks. So whom are you going to watch? Probably the first one, or one of the first ones that have been in the business of doing pranks. If I'm just now doing pranks, of course, it also can be funny. But it is something that everyone is doing. It's not going to be something new unless I'm doing something new. If I'm doing the exact same prank with the exact same actoring, because it's probably going to be like about acting and whatnot, then it's also not going to be that of an interesting thing, because I can also watch it from the other guy that is probably going to be way more popular, and also just in terms of actually having more subscribers, having more followers and all those things. So why should I be just watching this from a new place or at a new place? But yeah. Stoicism. Then I'm gonna add something like a line, because I kind of feel like that Stoicism is flying around. And when I'm designing something, or when you are designing something, you should also think about, and it is actually not black, or it should not be black. So let's just take a really dark gray. Yeah. If you're designing something, then you should also be thinking about physics, because it's, it also comes up to how much time you have spent in that space, I would say. Because for me, it somehow feels like sometimes that something is falling down just because it is high in the air and there's nothing beneath it. And therefore, I'm having to just put something beneath it so that it is not just crashing down or flying down or whatever, which can sometimes help, which can also sometimes not be that good. It really depends on the situation. It really depends on whatever I'm doing. But now I'm going to actually take these two things and I'm going to make them even smaller, because I kind of feel like that having it is a little smaller, it is a little bit better. And also that there is even more contrast, as we should be having it in life as well. Because if there's no contrast, like the thing is, if you're only having good days, are they actually good days? Like, I really hope that you're having good days, don't get me wrong there, but it's gonna be something different if you're like just only having good days, because then you're not having the contrast of having a bad day as well. Like, it's gonna be something different, it's totally gonna be something different. So what are we gonna do now? I'm normally also adding something like we are now in the whole horizontal area quite, and I'm now gonna add something that's vertical, just because I feel like it just makes it more interesting. It always just, this is my style. It clearly is my style, and it clearly is my way to do things. But find your own way. Find your own way by doing it a lot of times, by just trying it out, by actually, as I said, doing it a lot of times. It's gonna work out really well. If you're doing it every single day, you're gonna get better, for sure. I can promise you that, actually. But you need to do it every single day. This is kind of the rule then. So let's actually have a look at our layers. Where are they now? Let's give me my layers, please. I need my layers. There we have them. Because we take this Stoicism, yeah, and we're gonna just do it like this, and then we add a stroke. And the stroke should not be, I'm very sorry that you're actually not seeing it, but I'm actually adding a stroke to it which you can do by double clicking on it. And then we're gonna increase it a little tiny bit so that it is a little bit thicker. And now we're gonna work with this one. So it's not gonna be the best design. You're not gonna see the best design here, but you're gonna see a design and how I am doing the design. Let's actually put the small things here. It's actually also pretty laggy for me, so I'm actually very sorry about that. It's also a little bit disturbing for me to do that. So that I'm also having like a little bit of weight beneath this flying object here, because I feel like it needs it. What I'm normally also then doing is that I'm gonna press Command, Alt, Shift, and E, which is gonna group everything and copy it to a new layer. And now I'm gonna press Command J, and now I'm gonna be able to just drag it around and make something interesting out of it, which is actually a really, really, really easy way to just make something a little tiny bit more interesting out of something, because this already looks more interesting if I'm doing it just in a nicer way, maybe, so that I'm not cutting off pieces randomly there, which is also something that's a little tiny bit disturbing, or can be pretty disturbing here. Let's do it like this. Yeah, I would actually say it's a pretty cool one. And the last step would actually be doing it once again and then adding some sort of a grain or something, which I'm normally doing in a camera raw filter. So that is also, or again, a little bit more interesting, and maybe even gonna do it, just play around with the exposure a little bit, so that it is just gonna be pretty cool. And I actually think it is pretty cool. I like the colorway now. I really like it now. It's a little bit darker. It's like pretty modern, and I love it. And I think that's actually going to be it with the Photoshop part here. So this is the final piece, I would say. Like, there's a lot of things that you can be adding to it again. You could just be using something that I'm also really liking to use is certain, this one, for example, certain ways to distort the whole thing, which is, at my point of view, a really, really cool way to just work with it and make something a little tiny bit more interesting out of it. I would even say I would just keep it like that maybe. Well, I don't like it that much, but it's pretty cool, I think it is pretty cool. I hope you've been able to learn something. I hope you've been able to just copy something. I'm using the stroke thing because I feel like it is a little bit more interesting to just compare to the regular thing, to the regular fonts and whatnot, to as well having more contrast and also just having certain weights, so there is other things going on. And yeah, definitely using smaller and bigger things. But yeah, I'm gonna export this pretty quickly, and I'm then gonna go through the summary. And the summary is gonna be amazing. It's gonna be so amazing. Really, really, really amazing. Just because I've already had a look at it, and it indeed, there's so many good things that he's talking about, or they are actually talking about, I should be saying. I actually should be taking a screenshot from it, because my computer tends to be quite out of space. And when I'm out of space, then I'm not able to export things, which is really fucked up then. When I'm just actually using or losing all my progress. It is something that I actually don't like too much. As you can actually also think about it, I guess. Let's see. I'm going to show you the other one. Currently we are on Tribe of Mentors, but we're going to go ahead with this one. So let's see. Maybe this episode's also going to be a little bit longer. It depends on me, I guess. It depends on how I feel. And I'm actually feeling really good. I really feel good about this episode today. I think it's a really cool one. I like it. And now we're actually having this piece of shit on the left side here. What if I'm just... Okay, now it's fine. For a life spent viewing all the variety, the majesty, the sublimity in things around us can never succumb to ennui. The feeling that one is tired of being, of existing, is usually the result of an idle and inactive leisure. Yeah, I kind of get that. If you're doing something, which I guess is meant by leisure, which probably means like work, I guess. No, it's the free time. Yeah, Freizeit in German. Freizeit. Never mind. Of an idle and inactive leisure. Of course, if you're having a job and your job might be really demanding, but if you're not doing something in your leisure time, something else that might make you really happy or that you're enjoying, that you're passionate about, of course, it's gonna fucking kill you somehow internally, which is something that I hope that you're not doing. I hope that you're just actually having a look at that. I hope that you're just doing this and thinking about this and trying to do something that you like to be doing. But I'm actually not sure if we stop there. A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is. Nobody can be in acute pain and feel it for long. Nature in her unlimited kindness to us has so arranged things as to make pain either bearable or brief. Definitely. If we are not dying, then we are just basically gonna feel the pain. But it's bearable. We can just go through it. We can, if we want to. And it is maybe something to think about, to just think about and just to realize, because we can sustain it. We can just sustain it. So why shouldn't we? Why do we then think, okay, it's going to be so tough, it's going to be so difficult, it's going to be so painful, that we just kind of feel like we are not going to be able to sustain this and all this shit, basically, in the end. An illness that swift and short will have one of two results. Either oneself or it will be snuffed out. Well, yeah. And what difference does it make whether I or it disappears? Either way, there is an end to the pain. Some sort of, yeah. It's like, I would actually argue that this is one of the things about Stoicism, or about this text especially, that I'm not quite agreeing to, I guess. Some sort of, but yeah. And we should indeed live as if we were in public view, and think as if someone could peer into the inmost recess of our hearts, which someone can. Yeah, we've been talking about it the last time, I guess. We've been talking about just living a life as if somebody, or actually your mother, for example, would always be watching you. Then you're probably gonna just do some things, and you probably won't do some things. Well, I have no respect for any study whatsoever if its end is the making of money, which is a pretty cool thing, I would say. What's the use of overcoming opponent after opponent in the wrestling or boxing rings if you can be overcome by your temper, or if you can be overcome by yourself? It is incredible, Lucius, how easily even great men can be carried away from the truth by the sphere pleasure of holding forth on a subject. The story is told that someone complained to Socrates that traveling abroad had never done him any good, and received the reply, "What else can you expect, seeing that you always take yourself along with you when you go abroad? What a blessing it would be for some people if they could only lose themselves," which you can probably do by just being drunk. It's not a good idea, and it is also something that the Stoics do not really suggest, since it's not smart. Kinda, not really, but understandable maybe, to some degree. Traveling doesn't make a man a doctor or a public speaker. There isn't a single art which is acquired merely by being in one place, rather one another, or an another, or at another, which is definitely the case. Only because you're living in a small town, maybe in a small insignificant town, doesn't really mean that you're not going to be able to be a doctor, to just kind of take it in another way. You can always be a doctor if you want to be a doctor, of course. If you're just having to study it, and you're just in a village and there's no university, of course, you're going to have to be just in another place, probably. But I wouldn't also necessarily say that this should be something that's like meant in this way. Maybe it's a metaphor, which I don't know. It is not because they are hard that we lose confidence. They are hard because we lack the confidence, which is a pretty nice way to think about things, also life and whatnot. But first we have to reject the life of pleasure. They make us soft and womanish, which is something that I actually don't like to say, actually. They are insistent in their demands, and what is more, require us to make insistent demands on fortune. Every person without expectation, has someone to whom he confides everything that is confided to himself, or confided, which means leak, reveal, make unknown. Yeah. Here is your noble spirit, the one which has put itself in the hands of faith, or fate. On the other side, we have the punny, degenerate spirit, which struggles and which sees nothing right in the way the universe is ordered, and would rather reform the gods than reform itself, which is a fucked up thing, because we can easily reform ourselves. But reforming just something that is giving some, like, nature and all those things, nah, it's not easy. It really is not. A person's going into the sun, whether or not this is what he is going out for, will acquire a tan. I'm going to repeat it because this is, I think, a really good one. A person going out into the sun, whether or not this is what he is going out for, will acquire a 10, just because it is what it is. And by applying it to some other things, like if you're just doing something every single day, you're gonna just progress no matter fucking what. No matter what you're doing, just because you're gonna learn every single day, potentially. It's not gonna be the case every single day, but you're gonna just use different ways of doing certain things. You're gonna do certain new things and whatsoever. So like there's a bunch of things that you actually can apply this to. And it is amazing because it is the fucking case. If you're going out into the sun and you do not want to be tanned, then you're basically not going out into the sun, but you're gonna just sit in the shades of a tree, for example. But it is not about the sun then. It is what it is, you can't do anything about it. People prone to every fault they denounce are walking advertisements of the uselessness of their training. Well, pretty tough, but understandable maybe. More active and commandable still is the person who is waiting for daylight and intercepts the first rays of the sun. Shame on him who lies in bed dozing when the sun is high in the sky, whose walking hours commerce in the middle of the day, and even this time for a lot of people is the equivalent of the small hours. Which I'm also not quite sure of, because you can also get done quite a lot of things if you're sleeping at this point in time, but it might have been a different thing back in the days, which is something that I don't know, like it can truly be the case. Can you imagine that these people know how one ought to live when they do not know when one ought to live? It might be about religion there, but I'm not quite sure. We are attracted by wealth, pleasures, good looks, political advancements, and various other welcoming and enticing prospects. We are repelled by exertion, death, pain, disgrace, and limited means. It follows that we need to train ourselves not to crave for the former and not to be afraid of the later. Yeah, it would make sense. Philosophy has no business to supply vice with excuses. A sick man who is encouraged to live in a reckless manner by his doctor has not a hope of getting well. That's for sure. Some kind of. So I do actually hope that I've been able to go through the whole one. So this would actually be kind of the last one. I'm actually having a funny feeling though that I've been skipping quite some things, but I actually also don't really remember. I know it's been like 2 days where I've been recording the last one, which is like, a little bit difficult then to kind of recap that. But I think I'm just gonna end the episode anyway here. There might be just another one, because I would actually like to talk about another one, because it is amazing. There's so many different things that is like just really important, like only in this one. But I'm willing to just read the last one once again, because I'm having a funny feeling that it might be worth it. Philosophy has no business to supply vice with excuses. A sick man who is encouraged to live in a reckless manner by his doctor has not a hope of getting well. And with that being said, this is going to be the end of the episode. I hope that you've liked it. I also hope that you've liked the first part of the whole episode, which I actually hope, that you've liked and also enjoyed. I have. I think it's been just something new. It's been something quite cool. I also just hope that it's been something that people have been contributing off of. I really hope. But even though it might be a little bit difficult to just talk about design while talking about self-development, or just combining these two things, which is actually kind of the thing that I'm doing here, some sort of. As you can see, like with all the things that you can see there, and there's actually Photoshop in the background. But I wish you the best health of happiness and also success, and I also hope that you're going to remind yourself on how you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, which basically means just being a nice person and then also going to be remembered as a nice person. But I wish you the best. And 3 other questions are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea. But I'm going to see you in the next time. So please consider subscribing to the podcast and also to the YouTube channel. And I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. Bye.